Welcome to Mac Talk, a Middle Tennessee podcast from Mott Haven Arts and Cultural Center in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm your announcer, Kennedy Galvin. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at the Carolyn Smith Foundation. The Carolyn Smith Foundation, improving the lives of people everywhere.
Thank you, Kennedy, and welcome everyone to Mac Talk. I'm your host, John Pitcher. We like to think of the Mac as a cultural town square where we encourage everyone to be their creative best. So, Kennedy, you are a skilled graphic artist and you're drawing images all the time. I am wondering, I always wonder this with creative people, where do you find your inspiration? I know that's an issue for all artists, and we all struggle with that. How do you decide what to draw on any given day? And how do you really, even more importantly, how do you get started?
Yeah, for me personally, because I like to draw things that I enjoy. So typically, for me personally, my inspiration comes just from what I'm liking that given day. Whether it comes from music or games or comic books or any given media, I typically will draw inspiration from that and just kind of go from there, find references, and just kind of start at it. And I know that's kind of like a lame answer.
Well, no, it's not a lame answer. I'm just wondering about what gets you started. Like I was mentioning that, like, what I do is I write.
Right.
So I've been a writer. I've also composed some instrumental music, but to me, it's almost the same.
Yeah. I
have to really do a lot of research first and know what I'm writing about, and then I'll often map things out.
Yeah. Like
I'll know if I'm writing a story that the story will have a beginning and a middle and an end. I kind of know where it's going to go and who the characters are. Or if I'm writing a piece of instrumental music, I'll know what my chord progressions are.
Right.
You know, I'll know kind of what my structure is going to be. But I still, after all that work and all that research and everything else, I can't get started until I have some inspiration. I mean, something has to come to me. I mean, and often it'll just, like, the first line will just come to me out of the blue.
Right.
And until that happens, I'm stuck. I have what I guess is called writer's block. And I'm wondering, I guess all artists must have that, though, don't they? Because isn't there, like, nothing more scary than the blank piece of paper?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of artists struggle with that. I do as well. For me, it's a tough battle between kind of artist block and then just having the attention span to actually get started, because I'm usually distracted. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of just gathering references, and I always am kind of fortunate to always feel like I want to draw at all the time, any given moment, I guess. Like, I could just sit here and doodle as we're talking right now, but I it's just something I love to do.
You just love to do it.
I just love to do it. I just like the feeling of pencil on paper and just running around.
And of course, a lot of what you do you like to draw superheroes and comic book characters and video game characters. So I know you like that, Kate, but I imagine you like superhero movies, right?
Oh, yeah.
What about horror movies?
Absolutely.
You do?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So in that case,
it's the best season right now, actually.
It is the best season for that. And speaking of horror movies and horror novels, if you are, and anyone out there is, a fan of, say, Stephen King, you'll be interested in this episode. That's because Nashville Opera is opening its 45th season with a production of The Shining, a contemporary opera based on Stephen King's delightfully creepy 1977 novel. John Hoomes, Nashville Opera's longtime artistic director, is here to talk with us about this unusual production. He'll also discuss two classic operas by Rossini and Puccini, which are also part of the 45th anniversary season. We're thrilled that John is here. John Hoomes, welcome to Mac Talk.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Well, when I think, and a lot of people think about an opera season, we think about La Boheme, we think about Marriage of Figaro, but you're starting your 45th season with The Shining, a work based on a Stephen King novel. What inspired you to pick this to open your 45th season?
Well, this is a relatively new work, and I feel it's one of the most exciting works that have been written in the past 10 years as far as an opera. It has had great success around the country in its limited performances it's had. This will be the Tennessee premiere of the work, and I'm very attracted to contemporary works and new works. And it felt like a great fit. And one reason too is The Shining is people may not know opera necessarily, but they certainly have heard that title, and it's almost a pop culture reference for us in our culture.
Oh, it is a huge pop culture reference. And I think when most people think about The Shining, I think the image that comes to their mind is Jack Nicholson. You know,
Right.
the little clips of him from
Right.
the 1980 Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yeah.
You know, but they're not thinking necessarily about the 1977 novel that got it all started.
Indeed.
And I'm just wondering, where did you take your cues from in directing this particular opera? Were you looking at the novel? Were you looking at the movie? Was there another source? Where do your inspiration or inspirations come from?
This is definitely based on the novel by Stephen King, and he has given his approval for this. When the libretto was completed, I understand it was sent to Stephen King, and within 24 hours he had okayed it and thought it was terrific. It is not based on the movie at all, and I kind of need to say that because
and the movie made some important changes too from the novel.
Did.
So
it did indeed. But the Kubrick Foundation is what it is, and so this is not based on the movie. The opera was based on Stephen King's novel. And Mark Campbell, who is a fantastic librettist who won the Pulitzer a few years ago, he took the novel and distilled it down into an opera libretto, and he did a really brilliant job in keeping as much as he could and keeping the flavor of Stephen King's work. And it is based on Stephen King, so obviously it's scary, obviously it's horror. Most people know the story. But Mark imbued it also with a great humanity, and yes, there are ghosts in this. Yes, there is a haunted hotel, but a lot of the focus of the opera, like the book to an extent, is the family. It's about the husband and wife, Jack and Wendy, and their little boy Danny. And Stephen King excels in taking ordinary people and dropping them into extraordinary situations. And that's what Mark has done with this, and matched up with Paul Moravec's music, it really becomes its own thing. The book is a jumping off point, and but the opera is the opera. It's still the story, but it's just so well put together, and the music and the drama complement each other. We're really excited about doing it.
and of course you're doing it in October, so it's Halloween month. So
2 weeks before
that's
Halloween.
just sort of a coincidence, I'm assuming, because you're going to start it anyway with this. Well, I'm wondering, tell me a little bit about some of your characters. I mean, your Jack Torrance, the focus of the story, is a baritone. In your case, it's Robert Wesley Mason.
Yes.
What sort of directions are you giving him to bring out this very nuanced and disturbed character?
Robert Wesley Mason, or Wes, is a wonderful opera singing actor.
Right, and I've heard he kind of bridges those two worlds, right?
He sure does. And
so perfect for this particular opera.
Yes, and more opera singers, they realize the acting is just as important as the singing. And Wes does bridge the worlds. And so he's not afraid to what I call act with his voice if it needs to. So sometimes it's not just beautiful singing like opera often is, because that's not what this piece is sometimes. Other times it is. But he's a wonderful artist, and I've worked with him a couple of times before. He was in the world premiere of a piece we did a number of years ago called Three-Way.
I remember that, yeah.
He was in he was in throughout the show. He was in that show. He was also, years ago, we did a production of Turandot, and he was Ping, I think, one of the priests. But I thought of him for this because I knew he'd be able to really access this material and bring it to life. And he certainly is. He really embodies this character. And as I said, is not afraid of physicality, and it's a very physical part.
Right. There's a lot of, he's a violent character toward the end, because he's possessed, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you said that. Yes, he is. Yeah, that's the way we're playing it too. Is he is from the start. He is a somewhat troubled character, and we find out through the plot he struggles with alcohol. He has a bad temper, And the last thing he needs.
And there's tension with his son, and of course Stephen King often has kids as a little bit of a vessel to sort of move his stories forward.
Well,
he's very brilliant that way.
Well, and fathers and sons.
Yeah.
But his character of Jack, the last thing this man needs is to be put into an isolated place for months, where he just has time to deal with his own demons.
Well, he thinks he's going to be able to do that, right? But
He's
gone into the wrong place.
Right, right. I think the isolation.
There's some warning there too, but he doesn't. They don't heed it.
Well, that's the goal from the start. Is he feels it's a wonderful thing. He even tells his wife at the start in the first scene. Her name is Wendy, and he says, "Wendy, I've finally done the right thing, and I finally." And so it starts out in a very positive way. This is going to be a great thing for him, a great thing for his family. Unfortunately, it's a haunted hotel.
Right. Now, how do you coach him though to sort of, because obviously you want the audience to sort of feel this change or notice this change or changes in him as they go on?
Well, I told him early on that I want to keep him sympathetic as long as we can.
Okay.
Because he can't start crazy. Jack Nicholson in the movie did to me.
Right.
Driving there. When they're driving, I'm going, something's really wrong. But in the opera, Jack, even though he's a troubled character and has had some trouble in his past, they're a very loving family. And I've intentionally put as much of that in as I can. And I told Wes, I said that we want the audience to love you as long as they can, until he is taken over by something else that is able to manifest and use his own demons against him.
Right.
And that's the libretto too. That's the way Mark has written it. But I think it's important. It's important too that we start the piece, the opera. It's almost like I'm directing a Hallmark family movie. So it starts, very loving and G-rated and kind of an adventure, and then it turns darker and darker. But it can't go dark too soon, or we have nowhere to go.
Okay.
And then by Act 2, we're in the midst of darkness.
Yeah. Well, I love how the composer himself sort of described it as a perfect subject for opera, because it's all about love and death and power, which I think describes a lot of my favorite Italian opera right there. You've got,
for sure.
You've just encapsulated Tosca.
Yeah.
Stephen King would have felt very comfortable in that world, I think.
Totally. I totally agree with you. And that does encapsulate this piece as well.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit more about the family. Tell me a little bit about Wendy. I think that's your soprano, Anya Matanovic.
Yes, she is. It's her first time with us here in Nashville. I've been wanting to work with her for a long time. I saw her a number of years ago in an opera production of the opera Streetcar Named Desire by Andre Previn, sorry. And she played Stella in that. And I still remember it. It was fantastic because she too...
Well, that's an incredibly powerful role right off.
Oh, my gosh.
You have to be a great singer-actress to do that.
You have to.
So you've paired the same kinds of leads here.
Yeah, and they both know each other in real life, and they like each other, and that's important. So they play husband and wife. But Anya was, I remember seeing her in that role, and it was so intense, and her acting was great. Vocally, she was terrific. And so when we looked at this piece, I had Wes in mind already, but then I remembered Anya, and so she was able to be a part of it. And so we already have a very strong... a strong couple that are in place. And like I said, they're a very loving couple for the longest time until things go wrong with him. And they're still a loving couple. But then it becomes almost like in real life with a couple that something happens to the other half of the couple, whether it's illness, whether it's something like Alzheimer's, whether it's mental illness. You don't stop loving the people just because something is wrong. And she even has a fantastic aria in the first act that starts. The first line is, "I never stopped loving you." And it's just great. The depth of her feeling for him stays constant throughout the show, even when things are at their worst.
Right. Well, what are your cues to her? How do you sort of direct her to sort of deal with some of the changes she's seeing? What are your messages to her? Because you're very good at that, I've noticed
thanks.
over time.
Well, a lot of it is she doesn't really understand what's going on. She doesn't understand. She knows he's troubled, and she knows they've had alcohol issues. There is no alcohol in the hotel, which they're both thankful about at first. Although we keep hearing Jack say, "What I wouldn't give for one little drink, one little something." So she's taken a little by surprise by the way the ghost or the hotel or something start manipulating Jack.
Right.
And her big thing as the show goes on is to protect their son.
Right.
Is to really make sure he's all right as she deals with this and tries to bring Jack back to what he was.
Right. Well, she doesn't know really what's going on, but the son kind of does, doesn't he? Or he has a sixth sense, or it's called The Shining. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the little boy Danny has this clairvoyance of some sort that Stephen King put into the novel, and we're using it in the show, where he has premonitions. He can see things a little maybe in the future or maybe behind walls what's going on. He also has this power, this energy in him, but he's a little boy. He doesn't really understand it, and he doesn't know how to harness it yet. And there's a part near in Act 1 where we meet Halloran, who is the cook of the piece, right? Who also has a version of this shining in him, and he sees it in Danny. And they have this wonderful scene together where Halloran goes, "Look, I know we share something in common." And Danny's a little embarrassed, but Halloran goes, "No, it's you just have to learn what it is." And Halloran says, "Tell you what, show me how hard you hit." And the little boy goes, "Hit?" And Halloran goes, "Yeah, think really hard right at me and just show me your power with it." And so the little boy does, and the shining, whatever it is, it emanates out of Danny and slams into Halloran. Doesn't hurt him, but it knocks him down. And Halloran goes, I knew it. And Danny goes, "Oh, I'm really sorry." He goes, "No, it's okay. It's okay." And that's how he starts to realize he has this power in him. And one thing that I've done with the piece, which is in the libretto, is that I want the shining to have more significance than just a clairvoyance. And so it comes into play later in the show.
Right.
And it doesn't really in the movie, and it does in the book, but not to the degree it does in the opera, where in Act 2 it comes back in a way that really affects the plot in a great way.
Wow. And I'm so glad that the opera does that, because that really is the key to understanding this novel and the whole story. I mean, that's
for sure
the title, and I think that's sometimes missed. We're speaking with Nashville Opera Artistic Director John Hoomes. We'll be back after this important message.
The Carolyn Smith Foundation is a strong supporter of arts education. The arts foster creativity, critical thinking, and emotional expression. They also enhance communication skills and cultural awareness while boosting confidence and collaboration. Students engaged in the arts often perform better academically and develop lifelong appreciation for diverse perspectives. This message was brought to you by the Carolyn Smith Foundation, a champion of arts awareness and education since 2016. For more information, visit their website at carolynsmithfoundation.org.
We're back with Nashville Opera Artistic Director John Hoomes, who's here to talk with us about the opera's upcoming 45th anniversary season, which includes a production of The Shining based on the Stephen King novel. Tell me a little bit about, you have, one or two kids who play this role or alternate in this role? Tell me about Danny.
Yeah, we have two little boys that are sharing the role where they will alternate.
How old are they?
I think they're both 11.
Okay.
Maybe 12. I think 11. One is named Jake. One is named Lucas. And they're both theater kids from Nashville. So they both have had a lot of theater training. They both are like singer, dancer, actors, And
This is a big stage role for them, though. This is the T-Pack.
It is a big stage role, and they're both great. They're both terrific. They don't sing during the piece, but they do have spoken dialogue, and they're very involved in the scenes. There's a lot of acting involved, and it too is very, very physical. And they're doing great. They're doing really, really well. I remember talking to a friend a few years ago when I told him I was programming this, and he said, "Aren't there little boys in this?" And I said, "Well, yeah, there have to be for Danny." And he said, "Well, I don't know how I feel about putting a child into this story." And I said, "Well, first of all, it's the story, and second, it's acting."
Right.
And both of these boys fully understand what that is and fully understand what we're trying to do. And they're great, and they're intense, and the way Paul has written it as well. Like I said, they have some spoken dialogue, but they don't sing necessarily. But the chorus that are off stage, they act sometimes as the voice of The Shining. And so when Danny has one of those visions and he almost convulses, it's almost like he's having a spasm as it happens. The chorus, all he has to do is he has kind of a convulsion. He opens his mouth, and we hear the chorus singing the voice of The Shining in these tight block chords, and it's a bizarre, super cool effect.
Right.
And so we've worked with that, as we've gone on with the piece, and it's I don't know, I'm really impressed with what Paul has done, because he's added a lot of musical magic to it as well as dramatic magic.
Okay. Well, actually, that's a good segue into talking about Paul Moravec, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning composer. He's done this work. My old friend Terry Teachout, who's a Wall Street Journal critic, was absolutely, I think, Paul's biggest champion. He just loved him. Before he got his Pulitzer Prize, he said, "This is the next Pulitzer Prize-winning composer." And I think what he loved about Moravec was that he just saw Moravec as sort of one of the great tonalists of our time. Somebody who, wasn't trying, to take John Cage to the next level. He was somebody who was just trying to write the most compelling and, if need be, beautiful music he could, or dissonant, whatever the music demanded.
Indeed.
But still a real great craftsman. Tell me a little bit about his music for this opera.
There is some dissonance in the opera because it is a horror story at heart.
Right. There would have to be for a movie score as well.
Yeah, right. And so many. I've heard a lot of opera people that get a little huffy when you mention something sounds like a movie score. I do not. I think that's great. And
because all of our movie scores actually came from old operas and Strauss tone poems. I'm sorry, but that's where it came from.
Exactly right. And I think one of the big tragedies of our business is that someone like Ennio Morricone never wrote an opera. John Williams has not written an opera yet. I still have hope. But Paul has written this piece, and the music and drama work so closely together. But sometimes he's written some angular dissonant music. A lot of times that melts into real beauty and harmony. It just depends on what the scene needs.
Right.
It's very much in service of the drama and what the emotion we want to feel is needed. And I will say, though, he does finish the show with some incredibly beautiful music. There's an epilogue, and it's almost like he saves the best for last.
Okay.
And once the epilogue happens, he's able to open up and kind of give the audience a warm hug at the end.
Right.
But his music is remarkable in the structure, and it's very tightly structured. And sometimes it sounds random. It's not at all. It's very, very structured.
Right. Well, I've listened. I haven't not obviously seen or heard this opera on stage yet. I'm looking forward to it. In clips I've listened to and other takes I've listened to, it's very operatic. It's obviously sung by opera singers,
Definitely.
so it's different from a theater piece. But there are elements to it that could have been written by Stephen Sondheim. That could have just been a little outtake from Sweeney Todd.
Yeah,
it's very approachable music.
To
me, it seems.
I agree. It's very approachable music, and if you've ever been to a movie and heard like a film score or a horror movie film score, it's going to sound very familiar.
Yeah.
But it really is there. Paul wrote so much of his music in service of the action and the drama. And then sometimes he's able to pull back and relax and let everyone sings, and
Right.
it's beautiful.
Right.
But he's written a really masterful score for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that's in the great tradition of opera, and of course, and also, to whatever extent there's crossover between Hollywood and the opera stage, and there's going to be a little bit. Bernard Herrmann certainly knew how to write some pretty shrill, dissonant music for Alfred Hitchcock.
But he did. But he also wrote an opera based on Wuthering Heights.
Yes.
And which is actually a really good piece. It's not done that much, and it probably honestly could use a little editing, but he wanted to reach out for the stage, and he did.
Okay. You sort of alluded to this a little bit. You were talking about the chorus. Tell me a little bit more about the chorus, because they have a fairly significant role.
They do. We have a chorus of around 18 people. Some have named parts, and some are more ensemble. Some of what they do is ambient sound and music. So we hear like the voice of the hotel sometimes. We hear the voice of The Shining. Other times when Jack is in kind of a reverie and has what feel like more hallucinations during the show, or maybe it's the haunted hotel coming to life little by little around him. There are a lot of characters and ghosts in the hotel that have been in the hotel since its start. So we have characters in the 20s, 30s, 40s.
Right,
50s.
you have those famous flashbacks, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's wow.
And
That's your
the
chorus.
music style changes. And so sometimes Paul has written music from the 20s and music from the 40s and 50s that we hear every now and then as part of his score. And the chorus play all of these characters from the past. And we find out a lot of bad things happen at this hotel, as I'm afraid happens in many hotels, I guess. Where there was a lady named Mrs. Massey, an older socialite who is jilted by a young man, and we find out that she committed suicide in the hotel. And the newspaper said, died of natural causes in her room, but we see what really happened to her. There was a gangland slaying in the hotel with mobsters, machine guns. A former caretaker, that's Jack's position now, but the man before him went crazy from the isolation and murdered his family, and we hear about that.
Which is our sort of the premonition for what's going to go on in this crazy story.
And so the chorus play a lot of these characters. Now one thing we're doing, which is very, very different, is our production involves a lot of video and a lot of film and video that we're going to cut into the show. And it's almost like we're creating a movie that we're going to drop live singers into, and they interact with the video. It's very ambitious what we're trying to do. Because of this, the majority of the chorus we will not see. A lot of them sing off stage. I'm setting up a sound studio off stage with mics, so a lot of it they will sing. I spent about a week 2 months ago doing green screen filming upstairs here at the Lift Center, in which I had actors that were portraying everything from Ghost to Mrs. Massey to the gangland slaying, and I filmed all this. And now we're going to be cutting this into the show for hallucinations or when the ghosts come out, because little by little the ghosts start appearing more and more during the show. There's also a character that's talked about mysteriously called the manager of the hotel. And I think that manager is the ultimate demonic entity that is latched on this hotel years and years and years ago. And it's still there. And these souls may be people that have passed away at the hotel that now this thing is controlling. And feeding off the fear of people, and it really wants Danny. It wants the little boy, because maybe it just wants to feed off that sweet, sweet innocence.
Or maybe it senses his power.
And maybe it's the Shining it wants. I don't know. It's left ambiguous, but we do see glimpses of this entity in the video, and we see some of the evil in the hotel manifest. So when Jack has some of these hallucinations, and he has a big party hallucination in Act 2, where he fantasizes he's back at a 1930s party, and we see a lot of it. He's alone on stage, but we see all the party in the video on the walls. And so we're trying a very different take with this. Mm-hmm. What I'm also trying with this, and it's in the libretto, and I do want to mention the libretto of this piece, again, was written by Mark Campbell, who is a Pulitzer Prize winner as well. And he's one of the top in the world right now for librettists for opera. Right. He is so sensitive.
Well, this opera has a dream team behind it. Right?
It does. It's got such great talent behind it. And so in his libretto, he has written so many things in it, whether it's the ghost and how they're done. But what I'm trying to do with the piece is I want to take the piece seriously, you know. Because you mentioned sometimes you have a lot of you have ghosts and things, and people think it may turn a little campy, but that's not Stephen King. And so we want to take this really, really serious. There are moments of humor in the piece, but there's a moment when Mr. Ullman, who is like one of the hotel workers, is talking to Jack privately, and he tells Jack, we looked into your past. You've had some trouble with alcohol, and they talk about it, and Jack says, I've stopped it years ago, dry as a bone. And there's a pause, and Ullman goes, well, it's too late now anyway. Okay. And that becomes kind of a laugh line. So there is humor in the piece, but I think you've got to take it seriously. I think one reason that Steven Spielberg's movie Jaws works so well is there's a lot of humor in it, but you never make fun of the shark. There were no jokes about the shark. That is a serious thing. And I feel that about the ghost and the manager and the hotel. We're never going to make fun of that.
Right.
There's something really disturbing and evil there.
Right.
And the idea then is for the audience to root for this family, and to ideally hope they're going to be okay in the midst of this. But ultimately, the work is tragic in its own way.
Okay. We're speaking with Nashville Opera Artistic Director John Hoomes. We'll be back after this important message.
The Carolyn Smith Foundation reminds us that the arts help build well-rounded communities. They foster creativity and cultural understanding. In addition, they bring people together through shared experiences and support for local identity. Art programs promote education, economic growth, and emotional well-being. Interested in expanding your own creative horizons? Check out the MAC's website at monthavenarts.org.
We're back with Nashville Opera Artistic Director John Hoomes, who's here to talk with us about the opera's upcoming 45th anniversary season, which includes a production of The Shining based on the Stephen King novel. I want to talk a little bit about some of the other works you have coming up this season, and I don't think you can really have a celebratory 45th season without having some Puccini somewhere. So you guys are doing one of my favorite operas, The Girl from the Golden West, which you did. I think the last time the opera did that was the 2011-12 season.
I believe so.
This is an amazing opera. I always think of it as kind of a companion piece to Madame Butterfly, since these are his two American-themed operas. Right. And of course, The Girl of the Golden West actually is, to me, although it's sung in Italian, is very American. It was premiered in New York, 1910 at the Met. So it definitely has an amazing pedigree. And to me, it's an extremely important opera for Puccini because his style just keeps evolving. Regardless of the theme, just a very American Western theme.
Yes.
He has this amazing orchestral score. He's sort of moving in the direction of composers like Strauss or even Wagner to a certain extent. He's creating serious orchestral music in addition to having his great Italian lyricism. What inspired you to bring this opera back after all these years?
I just love the piece. I think it's one of Puccini's best works. It's funny you mentioned Butterfly because this was his follow-up to Butterfly.
Right.
It was right afterward. But you can hear the musical growth in this piece because, it's beautiful. The music is beautiful, but it does feel like he's experimenting some of where maybe he would go in the future. There's some modernist elements that he's putting into it. But I just love the piece. And it even though it is written in Italian by an Italian, it just almost feels like an American opera. And the music in it sounds like all the big westerns we know, whether it's The Good, Bad, and the Ugly or The Magnificent Seven. But this was written before those westerns existed. This was written when silent film was there. And I like the idea that Puccini was writing what the feeling the American West and the mythology of the West gave to him, because by that point he had not been. I don't think he'd been to the United States. He'd certainly not been out in the West. Most of his inspiration came from the Buffalo Bill Wild West tour that came through Europe, and he saw that and he took that as inspiration, and so he wrote music that to me sounds like it was kind of an early version of some of the big Western scores that we hear.
Well, the big Western score composers were certainly aware of this opera.
Definitely.
So they, the good ones, stole from it, but they didn't leave their fingerprints.
That's exactly right. But I like the way he paints this kind of American Western sound in a time before that sound existed, and he'd never been here to experience any of it. This is all his imagination and how he scored it would feel. And I think the very opening, the show starts with a short prelude, and it's amazing.
Which is
music.
a great orchestral piece. It is
incredible.
amazing.
And it always feels, if I were doing the movie of this, it feels like a helicopter or a drone shot going through the Grand Canyon.
Right.
It feels like the opening is we kind of see the sunrise, and here comes the helicopter, and it flies down with the mountains and the gorge, and it just feels like that.
Well, tell us a little bit about the main character, the girl of the Golden West, Minnie. What I love about that character is it calls for a dramatic soprano. So I think of like a Hildegard Behrens or some singer from my past who I love. Tell me a little bit about that role. Tell me about your own Minnie, Kara Shea Thompson.
Well, I love Kara Shea because she can portray this real beauty and innocence with a voice that cuts over a giant orchestra, and that's what you need, and that's hard to find sometimes. But I love her as a singer and a character because she is just incredibly lovable, and this character needs to be. And the character of Minnie is a very strong woman who is like the big sister of all the miners in the camp. But she is also a little sheltered and a little naive. And I like that she's not one dimensional. She has a lot of different dimensions, and she has some flaws as well. But her music is really what drives the piece. Her vocal lines. This is not so much a star vehicle, though. This is more of an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
And there are a number of other characters in it, and the chorus. There's a big male chorus, and most of them have small parts and small named roles, but they're all held together by Minnie.
Right.
They're held together by the soprano.
Okay. Well, I love some of the finer points in the libretto. I mean, I love the fact that this great Italian composer has a character named Jack Rance.
Yeah.
That could be a character right out of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. It's like he definitely, despite the cultural differences and the distance, he definitely seems to have gotten it, which is why I think he was able to write such a lasting masterpiece with this opera.
I agree, and he wrote all these little parts for small roles, right? These are miners, not necessarily cowboys, but they're miners, and most of them have names, whether it's Trin or Handsome or Bello in Italian. They all have names, and he wrote this one little scene that I love, and it's almost a little throwaway scene that he wrote for the postman or the Pony Express guy, and it's like a little 2-minute scene in Act 1 where here comes the Pony Express with the mail. And mail is a big thing because all these men have come out to the West from the East Coast. They've left their families. They're out here trying to strike it rich and trying to be gold miners. And a few succeed and most fail. But when the letters from home come in, it's a huge moment for these men's lives. And Puccini writes this little scene, and the way I do it as well is the postman comes in, he hands out the letters he has, and then one guy is waiting, and the postman eventually throws his hands up and says, "Sorry, that's all there is." And this one little chorus guy, and he's not named even, I just have him, he just stands there stock still for the longest time because, he was waiting for news of his mother who's sick or something. And he stands there as the activity continues. He just stands like a column, totally still, until another guy at the bar notices it and comes over to him, puts his arm around him, and takes him over to have a drink.
Right.
But those sweet little moments permeate this piece. There's such a humanity in the piece.
Yeah, no, it is one of my all-time favorites. I should add that it's being performed January 22nd and 24th, 2026 at the Fisher Center.
Yes, that's right.
Which is I love that place for opera. It is
same here.
Really, really amazing.
Well, I want to hear these singers and the orchestra in that space as well.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think you did your Wagner there.
We did.
So, and it had a big impact.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you're doing another opera of this sort of stature and seriousness in a place like that. So,
thanks, I appreciate
wonderful. It. Well, you're starting the season with horror and you're ending it with comedy. Was that intended? Because you're ending with The Barber of Seville, which is really maybe one of the greatest comic operas of all time.
It is definitely in the top 10 of operas ever written.
Yeah.
And we have a fantastic cast for that too. And we'll be back at TPAC for Barber of Seville, and it's going to be a big family-friendly comedy, and it's definitely a comedy. Dean Williamson, my music director, is conducting it, and he's really a specialist at Rossini. He believes that it should be fast and bright and beautiful, and it should follow the speed and accent of the Italian language. And he and I have talked, and sometimes conductors and orchestras, they pull it back and try to treat it more as if it's Puccini, but it's not. It's a different type of music entirely. And Bugs Bunny knew that.
No,
so
I know.
It shows up in his cartoons sometimes.
Yes, I mentioned this when I was actually talking with Nick Mulligan at the ballet last week, that I often have to confess to people that my initial education in classical music came from watching Bugs Bunny when I was a little kid. I mean, I knew, The Ride of the Valkyries from Elmer Fudd originally.
Right.
Kill the Wabbit.
Same here. I know.
And it was only later in life that I was like, oh, I know. I remember that piece. That was Rhapsody Rabbit. So,
that's right.
And it was really written by Franz Liszt. Okay. So it was just, to me, it was all revelatory, but it made learning classical music fun.
Yeah,
for me. So it was never like eating my musical spinach. It was always, sort of just a game. We're speaking with Nashville Opera Artistic Director John Hoomes. We'll be back after this important message.
The Carolyn Smith Foundation is a strong supporter of arts education. The arts foster creativity, critical thinking, and emotional expression. They also enhance communication skills and cultural awareness while boosting confidence and collaboration. Students engaged in the arts often perform better academically and develop lifelong appreciation for diverse perspectives. This message was brought to you by the Carolyn Smith Foundation, a champion of arts awareness and education since 2016. For more information, visit their website at carolynsmithfoundation.org.
We're back with Nashville Opera Artistic Director John Hoomes, who's here to talk with us about the opera's upcoming 45th anniversary season, which includes a production of The Shining based on the Stephen King novel. Well, I should add, you do lots of great performances, at the big concert halls here in Nashville, but we're lucky at Monhaven that we get to hear the opera in our little space because you guys actually come out in one way or another. And I'm wondering if you could maybe just very briefly comment a little bit about the importance of outreach that you have for your opera. Because, obviously this is one of the ways that you guys make yourselves really relevant to the community here and now by going out to the community, not just having people coming into you.
Yeah, well, a number of years ago, during the pandemic, when we could not perform indoors, we started a thing called Opera on Wheels, and we purchased kind of a trailer we turned into a rolling stage. I think it was formerly owned by Jack Daniels to do samples at things. And so we bought this trailer and we brought it out during the pandemic, and we would bring it around to public parks, assisted living centers, arts centers, all kind of anywhere out we could do, because we had to sing outdoors, and that would enable us to bring art and music into our community. And we're still continuing that, even though now sometimes we do go indoors. When we can, we like to get the trailer out and we bring Opera on Wheels out. One of our favorite things is to come to retirement homes and assisted living centers. Every year we have gone to Abe's Garden Community, and we pull the trailer in the parking lot, and people come outside with chairs, or they come out on the balconies there, and we do a concert there. And we have been to Monhaven, which we love coming up.
Oh, it's a hit. We have a sweet summer concert series that we do outdoors, and the Opera on Wheels has always been one of our big attractions.
Oh,
so
thanks.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Well, thanks. And that is run by a gentleman named Stephen Carey. I've known Stephen for years, and I added him to my staff about 2 or 3 years ago. And so I put him in charge of it. He's a pianist and also a wonderful musician. And so he puts the shows together, and he stays really, really busy.
Yeah.
And you can find out information on public performances, and they are free to the public on our website. We list all the dates. We still have, I think, some fall dates, and then we're relisting our spring very soon. Okay. And one other thing I wanted to mention, John, is we do have a really robust education program at the opera. We do Opera on Wheels, I feel, is kind of our adult education, because we bring music out into the community, but we go into the schools of Nashville, and we bring a fully staged opera designed for children with costume sets and piano and terrific singers that I bring in from New York, usually, that become a part of our Mary Raglan Young Artist program. And we take a fully staged opera into the schools. This year is an opera called Little Red Riding Hood's Most Unusual Day, with music by Mozart and Rossini with new English lyrics. It's about 35 minutes long, and we take it into schools. And I've been doing that ever since I got here to Nashville, which has been, 30 years ago. And it had never been done in Nashville. And when we first wanted to do it, I would call the schools and say, hey, my name's John, I'm with the opera. We'd like to bring an opera for children into the school. And some people would hang up on me because they thought I was joking. And now it's caught on, and now we have a waiting list for schools.
Wow.
We do about a 7-week tour. We play to around 30,000 children a year. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this season is your 30th anniversary, your 30 years
Indeed
here.
so.
Congratulations to you, and also thank you for all those years of bringing this great music to this city. Let me ask you maybe one last question. What do you think your biggest accomplishment has been?
Oh, wow. I think our biggest accomplishment, or mine, is we're still here, and we've grown. And when I first came here, the opera, and that was in 1995, the budget for the opera was a little over $300,000 total. And now we're close to a $4 million budget.
Right.
And that enables us to do so much, some wonderful main stage pieces, some Opera on Wheels. It enhances our education. But I think an accomplishment, as with any not-for-profit, is not only are we still here, but we have grown.
No, I absolutely hear you. I know when we started Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center in 2017, our budget shockingly was, because we had been an arts council, our budget shockingly was about $60,000 annual budget. Today it's about $1 million.
That's great. Good for you.
But what that means for us, it means that we actually get to have a much bigger footprint. So rather than having 30 students, we have 1,200, and we actually have our own outreach. We reach, 8,000, with our free arts outreach. So I can definitely appreciate that accomplishment from you guys here. Wow. And in the process, you've created, I think, an opera company that is of some national significance and not just regional significance because of just all the new work that you guys do. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, John Hoomes, Artistic Director of Nashville Opera, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Mac Talk from Monthaven Arts and Cultural Center. Our mission is to educate, elevate, and encourage our community through the transformative power of the arts. If you're interested in transforming your creative life, check out our website at monthavenarts.org. Our guest today was Nashville Opera Artistic Director John Hoomes. Our podcast music was written by Nashville composer Christina Spinay. I'm Kennedy Galpin. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.